Hi everyone, I'm Ray, and I'm going to be taking you through the whole process of making my first book. Now, bookbinding is a craft hobby that I've wanted to get into for quite some time, but I've just never quite had the motivation to take the plunge and get started. Now, that said, I am really excited to bring you all along with me on this journey in a meaningful creation. Um, Now, I've watched a lot of YouTube bookbinding videos, and they're really interesting, but they don't often go into where you can get the materials to start your own projects. But what they have taught me is some of the terminology used in bookbinding. So I want to go over a few before we get started. First term I want to go over is signature. Now, in bookbinding, a signature is a number of sheets, usually between about 3 and 5, folded together to make pages. They look like little booklets, and that's what gets stitched together to form your text block. The text block is all those signatures sewn together, ready to be case bound. Case binding is what it's called when you put hard covers on your book. They're often finished with leather or book cloth. Book cloth is cloth that's backed with paper, allowing it to be glued to your chipboard. Chipboard, or binder's board, sometimes called baby's board, it's really, I don't understand that bit, but it's a common material used as hardcovers for a case-bound book. Although you can still use chipboard covers on an exposed binding book, or you can do it like this book here, where you can see, well, I'm not entirely sure this is chipboard. Um, it might be. It's covered. It's finished with paper, and it's got a leather spine here. I think that's what they call a half finished book, a half bound book. I don't know. We'll talk about that if and when I need to. Um, Exposed binding is basically what it sounds like. You don't cover the binding. Um, yeah, I think that covers all of the terms that I'll be using in this project. If it doesn't, I'll explain when I get there. Now, let's get to this project. Alright, so this is my first book, so I'm not going to be doing anything too fancy when I say that, but I want to do this really pretty stitch pattern called a French link. Um, and you start with kind of a regular stitching pattern, and then you loop under. Here's my not so great illustration of that. You can, that's really bright. Well, you loop it under. You'll see when I actually get into this project. I think it'll look, I think this stitching pattern will look really great with the colors that I have, that I'm working with. And another good thing about this exposed binding stitch pattern is that when you lay it down and open it up, it should lay flat, which is what I want for this project. Because I don't have a cutting mat or a craft knife, because I'm a cheap college student, I'm not going to be cutting anything, so this could result in uneven pages, but I'm not too worried about that. Because this is my first book, and not doing anything too special with it. Of course, this locks in the size of my project, because I don't want to go out and buy specialty sized paper. So I'm just going to take regular 8.5 by 11 paper and fold that in half to make my signatures. And this is a really good time to bring up what materials I'm using. Perhaps the most important material is your paper. This is what you're writing on, this is what you see, and the absolute cheapest you can get is regular copy paper. You can get this at any office supply store. As you can see, this is from Office Depot. It's white copy paper. Something that you do need to consider is your paper weight. This paper is 20 pound. You can get copy paper in reams of 500 sheets, and that's pretty standard for this kind of copy paper. It's sold in a couple of standard sizes. Like I said, you can find this pretty much anywhere. You can also buy drawing and sketch pads, which typically have heavier weight papers and a chipboard back, delivering both your pages and your hardcovers. Cotton rag paper is a heavier weight, and the fibers are aligned in a different way that give the paper more strength and rigidity. But I don't feel like spending enough like that kind of money on rag paper because it is much more expensive than your average copy paper. And since I have this frame already, I figured I just use this. As for my covers, I chose to use cardstock because without a knife or cutting mat, or buying an art pad, using cardstock is easier and cheaper. Cardstock can also be found at any store that stocks office supplies and is sold for maybe $1 more than this copy paper. I don't have it at the moment, so I'm going to have to go shopping for that, along with a couple of other things. I'll get to that in a minute. With that paper out of the way, the next thing you need to have is your thread. And I have this cotton embroidery thread. It's a really nice burgundy color. It's got a nice sheen to it. And as you can see, it contrasts really strongly with the white of the copy paper. I got it for less than $1 at my local Hobby Lobby. It's somewhere between a crimson and a burgundy, so I'm just gonna call it like, I don't know. It's the most common accent color in the house that this project is going to be living in. So I figured red would be a good color. And this kind of cotton embroidery thread is really cheap. Like I said, I got it for less than $1 at my local Hobby Lobby. The cardstock is going to be a creamy beige, which I think will set off the dark burgundy quite nicely. Since this thread isn't waxed, I'm going to be waxing it myself. Why do I wax it? Well, because there's a number of reasons, but coating it in beeswax will make it stronger, and it'll go through the paper a bit easier with less friction, which means it'll damage this really thin 20-pound paper a little bit less. It'll keep it from getting tangled, and just it's easier to work with waxed thread in general. So I'm going to be waxing that. With all that done, now I just need to pick up the materials that I am missing. Needles, wax, an awl to pre-punch the holes, and the cardstock for the covers. In preparation for this project, I went to Walmart, Hobby Lobby, and Michael's to see if I could find those bookbinding supplies in store. I could very easily get all of this and more off of Amazon or order it from Walmart or what have you. But I'd be getting way more than I need. This guest book, this project is going to be a guest book, and it's my first project. And while I really want to complete it, I'm also going to be using it to make sure that this is something that I really do want to pursue longer than just this one project. And if it turns out that I don't like bookbinding as much as I thought, I would have a whole bunch of supplies and tools that I'm not going to use again. Well, that just sounds like a waste to me. So I'm trying to find things in store and in smaller quantities. Upholstery needles can be found at Hobby Lobby and Walmart for fairly cheap, about $3 for a pack, with a variety of sizes and shapes, including curved. Um, Curved needles can be helpful in bookbinding as they can hook behind the previous stitches pretty easily. But I really think it just takes some experimentation to find what works best for you and your project. So I want a mix of straight and curved needles to play with. Toys. Walmart is the only one out of the 3 box stores that I went to that had an awl in store, and it was a very heavy duty awl. Uh, Reasonably priced, sure. About $3 to $4 ish. Don't quote me on that. Go ahead and look it up yourself. But reasonably priced. It was more than I was looking for. Plus, the handle looked like a sturdy screwdriver, which would be rather uncomfortable after a while. And depending on how many signatures you have, considering that I really want this stitching pattern to show up, I'm gonna have a pretty hefty number of signatures. Well, a decent number of signatures. Um, you could be punching holes for a while because you have to punch them through every single signature and make sure that they all line up. Very important. Make sure that all of your holes line up. Otherwise, your entire project is going to be out of alignment, and nobody wants to be out of alignment, right? All 3 stores had cardstock. Obviously, Hobby Lobby had some more specialty papers, but those specialty papers were about 12 by 12 for like all of them. So since I'm not looking to cut my pages, and I'm using 8.5 by 11 folded in half, those specialty papers were unfortunately not up for consideration. Beeswax is, perhaps unsurprisingly, the hardest supply to source if you don't want to order off the internet. The only form I found it in across all of the stores that I went to was either pellets that you'd have to melt or a 1 pound block. Obviously, a 1 pound block is far more than I need for this one little project. Ideally, I want a 1 ounce bar. It's less material, it's easier to maneuver. It's what I want. It's what I need. So I needed to find another source. It looked a lot like I needed to just order a package off of Amazon, 6 1 ounce bars. But then I remembered something. I'm going to a fine arts college, and we have an art store on Main Street that caters to art students. So I looked on their online catalog, and I saw what I needed: an awl, a package of needles, and a 1 ounce bar of beeswax. So in the next video, we're going shopping. Fingers crossed that this local art store still has what I need in stock. Cheers!